Finally, we are going to hear from Professor Marnie Hughes-Warrington AO, who is our Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Research and Enterprise, and who will speak to us about the Rhodes Scholarships. There's some fighting words there, and what it was like to be a Rhodes Scholar herself. So Marnie's role is the strategic and operational oversight of the university's research and development, translation and commercialization activities. As a researcher, Marnie is a systems philosopher who seeks to understand and demonstrate how the past shapes our present and also our future. Marnie's had a long relationship with the Rhodes Trust and has recently won the Rhodes Trust George Parkin Award, which recognises her outstanding contributions to the Rhodes Trust community. So thank you very much, Marnie.
It's okay, I'm very grateful. I actually just want to say thank you to SAS and to all the people that have organised this today. It might be worth just giving them a round of applause. So I'm Marnie, I'm a first in family and I'm a Rhodes Scholar. You could look from the outside and said that I went to the wrong primary school and I went to the wrong high school. I did not. I went to the right primary school and I went to the right high school. I'm Unco. I'm the most unsports person like you could have met on the planet. And somebody encouraged me to apply for the Rhodes. And my first response was, but I'm not a bloke, I don't drink beer and I've never played rugby. And they said, you don't need to be a bloke, you don't need to drink beer and you don't need to play rugby. But look, if you play rugby, that's great too. Her advice was, you don't know until you give it a go. You actually don't know. So you can put yourself off these things and you can talk yourself out of these things, but let me encourage you to talk yourself into these things. And it doesn't have to be Rhodes, it could be all kinds of scholarships that you can talk yourself into. You can talk yourself out by saying, well, but my institution hasn't won a lot of them, or my subject hasn't won a lot of them, or people like me haven't won a lot of them. Well, let me tell you, as somebody who researches history for a living, just because something's happened in the past doesn't mean it's not going to happen in the future. And that's the best piece of advice I can give you. Other than that, okay, we've got the slides. Thank you very much. Here we go. I'll give you the basics, but you know, the basic message is if you want to learn to punt at the right end of the boat, you want to be able to walk at some lawns, and you want to lose the boat race every year, Oxford's much better than Cambridge, okay? Much, much better than Cambridge. I went I had not much idea of the scholarship, but I did get good advice to find the right referees. I didn't play a sport, I hike, and actually I'm still hiking, which is great. Some of my friends who are great sports people did their ACLs really early on and no longer do sport, so I'm peaking late, which is pretty fabulous. My subject was my subject. I love philosophy and I love history, and people ask me what the use of those things are. Well, history gives people great joy, but also history can explain why people don't have living families, why they live apart from their families, and why violence happens. So, and there is no group of people on earth that don't do history. It is actually something that makes us human. And sometimes that makes us joyful humans, and it can also make us violent humans. So it is one of the most important things we can study to help us to try and mitigate violence, but also to help us lead lives that are joyful lives. So that's why I study history. I put my hand up to apply because I believe that higher education is the one thing that makes the biggest difference to people's lives. That if people get a degree, they can have happier, longer, healthier lives than people who don't get that opportunity. I believe that as a 21-year-old, and I still believe that now. So while my career has taken me on lots of different paths, I was able to stand up for that. So our motto is stand up. And at the time I thought that standing up means stand up and speak with a placard. I now know that stand up also means stand up and offer your chair at the table to somebody else so they can have an opportunity to learn. And that's why I'm here today, okay? You don't have to be like me. You don't have to be Unco like me. You don't have to be Tasmanian like me. You can be whatever you want to be, and you can be a Rhodes Scholar, okay? So it's fully funded. So you get the stipend, you get your fees paid for, plus the stipend for 2 years at Oxford. And you get a lot of help and support along the way. So leadership, training, but also you become part of a worldwide network of Rhodes Scholars. And our oldest Rhodes Scholar in Australia is 93 and our youngest is 22. And you are part of that community for life. the mafia, as some people call it to me, a really delightful mafia, okay? You don't have to be suave, you don't have to be Prime Minister of Australia, although they turn over often enough here that you could have the opportunity if you really, really want to be Prime Minister. And I'll tell you, Joe, my first meeting in Oxford, I went to a Rhodes Scholar reception. I thought, oh dear, I don't know how to transact in this space. I'm from Tasmania, what do I do? I got, and I thought, I'll just go and shake someone's hands because I'm a bit introverted and I'm a total nerd. So I went to shake this guy's hands and he said, hello, I'm going to be President of the United States. And I didn't know what to say. I said, hi, I'm Tasmanian. That was all I knew what to say. That's all that came into my brain. I had no idea what I was supposed to be or to do. Now that guy's Cory Booker. And he ran in the last election and he'll probably run again in the primaries for 2024. The truth is he hasn't been president yet, but I'm still Tasmanian. So that's the moral of the story, is you don't have to be Prime Minister. What you do have to do is believe in yourself, and whatever your cause is your cause. So apart from being a student, I taught sign language in Tasmania because at the time the cochlear implant had been introduced and a lot of deaf people were quite distressed that their culture would be lost in the transition to new technology. And in the humanities, one of the things we try and reinforce to people is that technology is never without a human impact or without a human opportunity. So I learned sign language and taught sign language to a couple of thousand people in Tasmania. That was my thing. I still love that language and I'm proud to have done that. But that was a kid who was a first-in family, probably, studying subjects that you say, well, what do you do with that? You can do it. Okay, so if somebody encourages you to apply, take it seriously. So it's fully funded. It covers the fees. Unlike the other scholarships, you apply to Rhodes first. If you're successful, you become a Rhodes Elect Scholar, and then you apply to the university and you apply to the colleges. In between the two, you can get further advice about your application to Oxford and you can get advice around your referees. Okay? The referees are important. Don't be shy about asking people to stand up for you. People like me are used to people asking. I'm used to people asking me to do references. I don't think badly of that person. I think it's great when you put your hand up. So don't be shy to ask someone to be a referee. If they don't know you well, book in a time with them, sit down with them, talk to them about you, who you are, so that they can write from the best possible knowledge about you as a person as well as you academically, okay? If you are successful, you get your flights paid for, you get your fees paid for 2 years. If you decide to do a doctorate, you can also apply for a 3rd-year extension, okay? You don't get to fly business class, but hey, economy is pretty cool when you're a student. There you go, it's a real benefit. It is a lifetime thing. So for life, I'm Tasmania and Merton, 1992. There you go. So you have this little tag after you for life. And I'm very proud of it. The college I chose, why did I choose it, Joe? Because I was told it had the best food. I was deceived, but it's okay. I've forgiven them. It was a very beautiful, it was founded in 1264. So it's just crazy, isn't it? You go to UniSA's 33, which I think is a fabulous uni. And this university was 750 a couple of years ago. It's got a lot in common with UniSA. It's really interesting, really, really interesting. You meet other students, you get to meet with lots of other people. And as Joe has emphasised beautifully, you sit at the table with lots of other people who come from different subjects. That's one of the real benefits of being in these places, is that you meet people that are nowhere near your subject. And you can learn about all kinds of things and you can become informed about things, or you can just spout up about all kinds of things. And it's a space that's safe for people to express views about all kinds of subjects. So you'll meet lots of people, you can attend social events. Some of those are, social events like the one where I shook Cory Booker's hand. Isn't that amazing? But they've also got things like yoga and all different ways of participating. There's a silent reading group if that's your thing too. So lots of different ways to participate. Okay. Lots of subjects, including history. Isn't that great? So we don't have a rule about there is a subject that you must do and there is a college you must go. But Oxford doesn't teach everything. Okay, so check carefully first about whether it teaches what you're interested in, because applying to do something that it doesn't do, it won't help you. So it does all kinds of things. Okay, and just because lots of people have done law, other things, history, doesn't mean that you have to do those things. And you can see, you can do cuneiform studies, you can do music, you can do all kinds of things. So we don't have rules about what's useful, what's better, what's not. all of these subjects are valuable because no two Rhodes Scholars are the same. All right. What do we look for? Absolutely number one is academic achievement. So you must have an outstanding academic track record to apply, unashamedly. Okay. You might not think it's outstanding. So if you don't, go and talk to somebody about it, because you might not be the best judge. That's imposter syndrome. You might not be the best judge of that. I didn't think I should apply. And this person said, "You're crazy if you don't apply." And she was right. She was absolutely right. But she saw that in me rather than me see that in me. So if you're not sure, just go and ask somebody. And then we look for the criteria, which have been around since 1903. The Rhodes Scholarships turn 120 this year at the end of June. And what we look for, it used to be that we look for qualities of manliness, but they removed that in 1977, fortunately, because I would not have been able to demonstrate that one, but that's okay. It's absolutely okay. You've got to have a purpose, so a belief in what you stand for, so what you stand up for, who you are, that you have the courage to follow that and do so over time. You follow your own path, that you have invested time in learning, you're open-minded about your own learning, you acknowledge the generosity of other people. So you lead not just by standing up at the front, but also by encouraging others and taking them with you in that space. So that's what we mean by leadership. There is no cookie cutter form of leadership. There's no personal statement that will work for you. ChatGPT will not produce the best personal statement for you. Let me tell you right now, it will do a lousy job because it will not tell the panel who you are. We want to know who you are in your words, in your way of expressing. So you have to talk to the criteria in 3 different questions. It's no longer just one piece of text, 3 questions. And if you are shortlisted, you will come to an interview. The interview's at Government House. Don't be terrified by that. Okay, Rhodes will produce little diagrams to show you this is what the house looks like. Don't be put off by the silverware. Don't worry about the tablecloths. The governor is an amazing person. She's from South Australia. She's deeply committed to this community, and she is the warmest, most wonderful person. So if you're invited to interview, roll with it, okay? But if you're frightened about things, ask the question, because I wasn't quite sure, what am I going to do? And in fact, I was served lettuce soup at my interview, and I thought, how can you even make soup from lettuce? I was just, and there were lots of bits of silverware, but I just rolled with it and it worked okay for me. So I didn't clearly blow it on the lettuce soup. So that's the moral of the story there as well. We have separate scholarships for each of the states. So South Australia has its own scholarship, but we also have 3 at-large scholarships. So for people who are runners-up in the states and the ACT and the other Northern Territory and the offshore islands, they can apply to at-large. So there's more than one opportunity to be considered for the scholarship, okay? Where do you apply? We have an online system. Our applications open the 1st of July. So get going. The thing I'd advise you to do, have that conversation around your academic track record, around the subject, and start thinking about your referees now and talk to them, okay? Really, really talk to them to make sure that you get the best possible opportunity. You have to be an Australian citizen. We have rather complex rules around age. If these confuse you, do not worry. Just get in touch and we will help you, okay? We'll help you to understand whether you're eligible, but also what your eligibility in terms of degree and whether you've applied before. If any of this seems daunting, just don't worry about it. Get in touch and we will let you know quickly whether you're eligible or you're not eligible. If you are eligible, obviously you can pursue the application. In terms of what we do, we look at the applications, we shortlist, we interview, we go to the state elections, and then we have the final round, the at-large. And the at-large is a fabulous round. That's not a second-class Rhodes Scholar. Those are amazing Rhodes Scholars. So I don't want anybody to ever think that that's a group that came second. What do you need in order to apply? Academic record, proof of your passport, study statement, 350 words short, personal statement, 3 questions, 750 words, your full CV, photo. Okay, 5 referees, 3 of whom are academic. That means the other 2, one of mine was a deaf person who wrote about my teaching sign language, and another one was somebody from school who talked about what I was like at school. I think they had an amusing time writing my reference, so I'm still grateful to this day. But I found 3 academics who were prepared to sit down with me, spend a bit of time, and who wrote, including the person who encouraged me to apply. They wrote my referees, okay? And you can't just listen without asking them. It's really important, okay? The prompts, we just introduced this 2 years ago. to help support people to answer the question, because it's daunting to write 750 words without much structure. So we've just put those in. As a couple of years old, and we're still testing those questions, but they're important questions, and they ask you about you, how you've been shaped, who's helped you to become who you are, what you think you can contribute to the community. And if that's just by saying I'm a Tasmanian, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And then how you will contribute to the world, what you think is important. What you think is important. Don't be put off. Give it a go. Be yourself. Okay? And then we have all the information. We're on all of the socials. That joke. It's pretty impressive. We've come a long way in 120 years. It's not how old you are, it's what you do that counts. Okay? So that's the moral of the story. It's not what school you went to. It's not whether you're first in family or not first in family. It's about whether you'll give it a go. Okay? Don't be put off by the prestigious. I think we're all prestigious, Joe. We all shine in our own way. Yeah, we all shine in our own way. That's it. That's the rubric. Thank you, Sandy. Thanks for the opportunity.